Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so happy that you're here. This podcast is a place for conversations about balancing a healthy lifestyle and being happy. More specifically, happy hour. Together, we'll explore all things wellness and wine. I hope you learn a little, laugh a lot, and along the way, know you're not alone on this balanced wellness journey. Ready to jump in? Pour something in your glass that makes you happy because it's time for Spandex and Wine. Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I am your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so grateful that you are here. All right, so have you ever dreamed of winning the lottery and thought about how that would change your life? Well, what if winning the lottery is something that is really within you and that could actually change your entire life? Today's guest, Amy Dons, is a coach, among many other things that she does, that helps her clients do just that. Help me welcome Amy Dons. Well, hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast, Amy. I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Super excited.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you do so many things. You're so well accomplished. You are a coach, an artist, an author, a speaker, and most recently started a podcast called Winning the Divine Lottery. I want to start there because I have listened and it's amazing. So if you wouldn't mind, share a little bit about the podcast.
I would love that. Thank you so much. Winning the Divine Lottery is so exciting for me. It really is. Actually, I launched a coaching program a few years ago that I named that, and it kind of never left me. It was like this energy and this frequency that was kind of with me everywhere, because winning the Divine Lottery is really truly a perception, so to speak. It's really about for me personally, it's life and love are the lottery, and how we approach our lives and how we create our lives from a place of love and joy and abundance and prosperity really does change the trajectory of someone's life. And I didn't know that I was going to do a podcast. I'm super intuitive, and I really receive knowings and whispers from the universe all the time. And I received one that whispered to me, start a speaking company. And I was like, well, how do I do that? Like, I don't know what that looks like. Yeah. And so I let it simmer around for a little bit. And a few weeks later, I was like, I could start a podcast. Maybe that's the beginning. And as soon as I decided to start a podcast, I found Kathy Heller. I found out that she taught Your Turn to Podcast. I dived right into that, like head first, and I was just all in and committed. And what I love about podcasting is, first of all, it allows me to be a way more fuller expression of myself. And something that I think is so important for each and every one of us is to find an outlet where we can truly be authentic and really fully express ourselves and step into that. And also the amazing people like you that we get to connect with along the way, and really truly listening to people's stories and what they've been through and getting to know them from the inside out, rather than just, the highlight reels that we see on social media.
No, I 100% agree. I'm a little bit different than you in that I didn't know I was going to start a podcast either. I took the workshop and then I was like, oh, maybe this is what I want to do as well. And for me, same. I believe that the conversations that I've had with other people have been amazing, but I'm also the type of person where oh, look at the squirrel, look at the shiny things. I'm here, I'm there. And it truly has created in me a listening skill that I just so appreciate, and to just slow down and listen. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. And I resonate with that so much. And I think that is actually a skill that a lot of us aren't taught, so to speak, to listen, to truly listen, not to listen to respond, but truly allow somebody the space to be heard and seen in their fullness, even if it's not how we see things. The freedom in that is it's so incredibly valuable.
Yes, I agree. How did you get to all of this? So, I mean, I mean, you're a coach, so you're helping other people. So, what is your story? How did you get to the point where, okay, I want to help people be happy, to find that centering, that balance, that drive?
Yeah, I love that story and that question. It's a couple stories mixed in one, but I'll try and give you, a condensed version of it. But I grew up as a teenager that was on the self-loathing side. I
Right.
believed that my identity was in my body, and I struggled from about grade 8 onwards with my weight and my body image. I started gaining
Mhm.
weight. And I learned later on that that was because of childhood trauma. But at the time, I mean, I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. And I found outlets to express myself along the way, which was like speaking public competitions and drama and writing. However, inside, I didn't have a good self-image. I really did not like myself, and I did not like the body I was in. And it wasn't until after my son was born. So this is like early 30s. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I went through a little bit of a health journey before that. Like I actually became a personal trainer. But when you go through
Oh,
an
really?
identity, yeah, when you go through an identity shift like that, um, the fat Amy, I'll call her that right now because it's okay. I've healed her, right? But she never
Okay.
went
Okay.
away. She never went away. Like she was inside of me the entire time, even when I got fitter and healthier. And after having my son, I was kind of catapulted back into a body that I didn't like anymore. I was not well. I was postpartum depressed. My marriage was falling apart. I had a miscarriage at 8 months when he was 8 months old. I found out I
Mm,
had precancerous cells. Like everything was going wrong in my life. And I found energy medicine, something called Body Talk, which is conscious based energy medicine. And I had never experienced it before in my life. And out of like a 5-minute conversation, something intrigued me about it that I wanted to learn it. And I was looking for a backup plan because I was not physically well. So to return as a personal trainer was really not for me anymore.
mhm.
And it like changed my life. It transformed my life. It was the beginning of my personal development and spiritual journey. And it showed me how everything was connected, like my trauma, my belief systems, my emotions, my physical health, my mental health. And once you go down that road, you can't go back. And so I literally did like a 180 from self loathing to self loving. Like I learned how to love myself, and I learned how much I was truly loved by
Mhm.
something bigger than me. And that's really, I mean, when you change from the inside like that, you just naturally want to help people. You want to share that with
Right.
everybody, right? And that was the beginning for me.
Wow. Wow. And I mean, it is amazing that you got there because so many people don't ever get to that point. And it's so sad to see, someone in their, let's just say 70s, 80s, that they're still just holding on to that and they just don't have that freedom and happiness. So
Yeah.
I love the work that you're doing. So thank you for
Thank
making people
you.
happier.
Yeah, it's
Oh
one of my
gosh.
favorite things to do. I think the essence of me, because the biggest thing that I've discovered inside of me is this divine, intelligent love that is inside of me that I am connected to always.
Hmm.
And I've had some really profound experiences in my life, like mystical experiences, which has proven to me that over and over and over again. So I think that's my heart leading me in service to really guide people to their own understanding of this love that is inside of them, because that's truly what healed me.
Hmm. And so that is the coaching that you focus on, correct?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. And like, do you tell me about your conversations? I mean, do you do this? Do you do Zoom? Do you do one-on-one in person? How does your coaching work?
Yeah, I moved everything to online. I used to do some in person, like a hybrid mix. I think like a lot of us through COVID, we learned to pivot to online, which really was my original intention anyways, because freedom is one of my biggest values. And I love to be able to work from wherever I want to be, right, in the world. And
Yeah.
I love traveling. So that's the direction I went in. And yes, I do believe I've always been gifted, and through the experience in my life, I've been able to hone in on actually being able to hear people and see things that maybe aren't being said in a conversation. So intuitively, I can hear and see like the root cause of somebody's pain or what they would consider their misfortune or the belief system that led them to there. So really it's a unique process that's individualized to the person that is in front of me. But they're really the masterpiece, the canvas. So everything that they speak and say shows, kind of how they've been living their life and where
Hmm.
their limitations and how they view the world and how they view themselves. It's very apparent when you know how to listen.
Right.
And so I never tell people what to do. I think for me, because I've had them too, like the best coaches and mentors are truly guides. Because I do believe we have all that wisdom and everything we need inside of us. Just sometimes we need somebody from the outside looking in who doesn't have a personal attachment to their story, be able to guide them through all the crevices to find the insights and the clarity and the highlights. So
Hmm.
yeah, it looks different with everybody, but that's kind of, I hope I painted a little bit of a picture for you there.
No, you did. And it's so cool, the connections that you're able to have and the things that you're able to see. And I know to someone listening, they may be like, what is that about? But this is going to sound crazy too. But sometimes I've done this with my clients. I have taken on their pain. Like if they
Yeah.
have a shoulder injury or a knee or back, and I have to remember sometimes, okay, this isn't my pain. This is just here temporarily. And it's the weirdest thing. And
Yeah.
it's been so random over the years. It's not like I've been super close to one person and not the other, but so I understand what you're saying with that connection that it's hard for other people to understand sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel that all the time. I'm a sensitive being. I've learned that that's actually one of my superpowers. At a time, it felt like a curse sometimes because it does mean that I feel way more intensely than most people. And what I've come to know is actually people who experience a lot of trauma in their childhood end up being very sensitive. And I think that what that means is if we're talking on like a spiritual level or even a scientific level, if we go into quantum physics, what that means is like the veil between us and what's really real, like in the bigger picture happening, is a lot thinner. So we can actually experience somebody else's pain temporarily as an indication to show us, hey, this is actually what they need to be focusing on right now. And it's
Hmm.
just that discernment. It takes time, but we have to discern kind of like, okay, this is showing up just to get my attention, but it's not mine. That means I don't have to like bring it with me, for the
Hmm.
rest of my
Hmm.
day, but it's there just as a tool to show us what's happening inside of their body. And my energy medicine background, that's a huge part of the process. We're taught, right? We're taught how to actually listen to the body and all the disconnect and all the missing links that are sort of happening because everything physical, at least in my experience, what I've learned, everything physical has a root cause to it. And it's not physical. That's not the root cause. Usually it's an emotional cause or an energetic cause of some sort. And that led me into doing something else I do, which is so profound, is a modality that I created called True Colors, which actually came to me in a dream, like an actual dream that I had. I had a dream that I had to start painting people's naked bodies as a
Oh.
form of healing. And the next morning, I woke up and I knew I had to find 7 women and bring them through this process of painting them naked with my energy medicine background. No idea. I had no idea what was going to happen. All I knew is that I was raising awareness for something around how we see ourselves, our body image, our self-image. And I'm letting you know, I followed that call. And within 5 days, I found 6 out of the 7 women who all said yes. I had a friend who photographed the entire process because they were laying on a massage table and I was painting them just intuitively. I'd be drawn to like a body part and put this color on there. And with my energy medicine background, what ended up happening was their deeply buried subconscious story came to life on color on their naked canvas while being photographed the entire time. And when I was finished, they would get up and go in front of a full-length mirror and see them for the first time with this paint on their body that represented like their internal story, everything that they were holding on to. I can't talk about this process enough because it's been a decade now since I started this, and it is just mind-blowing. It's wild, it's profound, it is transformative. I've seen people heal trauma they didn't even remember that they had in their body. It's such an incredible process that all came from a dream, and I would have never dreamed that up for myself. Like if you would told me when I was a teenager, not loving myself and had gone through like sexual trauma when I was a kid, that that's what I would be doing. I mean, that's even like a complete 180.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
And my next question was going to be to ask you about your artwork and how that ties into everything. So, I see one piece of it. So tell me about the rest of your art.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Again, when I first started doing the healing work, what I discovered is there was just these untapped gifts within me. Like I was creative, but I never painted. Like I never really drew, except for in high school. So I didn't ever have a desire. And there was a pull, like I could actually feel it. Like it was an energetic pull one morning for me to get out of my bed and start painting. And I drove across the city to my friend's house because she offered some dollar store paint supplies to me. And I just started painting. And the first painting I made, I wanted to paint a tree, and it was awful. It was just ugly, Robin. I wish I kept it. I think I have a photo somewhere. And after that, I was like, I don't want to paint this way. I'm just going to play and discover and explore. And that was my approach. And I abandoned everything that I think, art should look like or how it's done, because I really didn't know anything, which was to my advantage. And what I started to discover, because I used acrylics, is it happens in layers. And so I would come back and then I would see like an image starting to come through the canvas. And I was like,
Wow.
that's cool. What happens if I kind of like highlight this area and bring it to life? And I worked out of my basement at the time with my energy medicine practice. So my clients were always coming into my basement and they started to see these paintings. Next thing I know, they want to start buying them from me. It's just been an ever unfolding journey. So it went from art to true colors to I do something called custom soul painting, where it's just another gift from the universe where I'm able to somehow tap into a person's soul blueprint and bring that to life in color on a canvas. I don't know what else
Wow.
to tell you. That's
No, that's amazing. It sounds very cool. Oh
yeah.
gosh. Tell me about your book.
Oh, my book. Oh, my book. My book was such a healing process for me. One of the most healing things that I've done for myself through really difficult moments and joyful ones too is write. I've been a writer for as long as I can remember, and I love writing poetry and all the wisdom and insights that I kind of receive. And so this was a culmination of all of that. So it's some of my deepest, most vulnerable moments with myself. So it is a true, authentic expression in moments of darkness and pain, in moments of joy and liberation. And in the middle, I actually left, I think there's around 10 pages, don't quote me on this, it's been a while since I looked at it, that I left blank with just an intro at the top. It's like an invitation into yourself to really allow yourself to express what's on the inside. Because what I learned is I came from generations of suppression. Like the women in my grandmother and my great grandmother, I mean, they didn't talk. You don't
Yeah.
talk about stuff that happens in the family.
Right. Yeah.
And when I was molested when I was a child, I was the first person in my family to ever speak out. And it took me 4 years. So
Wow.
this journey of unsuppressing, which really was expressing myself, this book was that. It was permission not only for me and all those aspects at me that carried shame through expressing. That's what this book is, in hope to give other people also permission that we're allowed to express ourselves, and
Yeah.
even if somebody doesn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's called All She Needs Is Love. The love you are seeking is within you. That's what it's called.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. And did that then lead to your speaking opportunities?
Yeah, I've actually, I was speaking before that even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in high school, I entered, like I said, every public speaking competition I could get my hands on.
Mhm.
So it's just, I was born to be on stage. I always say that. And yeah, so I was doing speaking before then and after that. And I'm really actually diving into that even more. I feel like the podcast was really a launching pad for that. So I'm really starting to put myself out there more because I just love inspiring people. And
Hmm.
when you can inspire somebody to transform, when they literally walk away a new version of themselves, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And I'm sure you're at times thinking, oh gosh, how come that 16-year-old self of mine couldn't have experienced all this earlier? But I know
Mm.
it comes to us in the right time. What would you say to your 16-year-old self?
I effing love you. You're amazing. You don't even know how amazing you are. And don't ever look in the mirror at yourself and think that you're not beautiful.
Hmm. I think that's good for every woman to hear
Yeah.
because I think a lot of women carry it for years and years and years. And self-love is just an amazing thing
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
experience.
I'm sure because of your industry too that you've experienced this. I think the thing I've found with most women is it doesn't even matter our shape or size. Every single woman has some lens that we look at ourselves through that carries shame. And there still is today, like there's so much pressure
Hmm.
around what's considered womanly, beautiful, sexy, sensual, and every girl goes through some aspect of that, right? So to have
Hmm.
a woman in your corner that's empowering you when you're young is so incredibly vital.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Wow. Oh, so I know that you realize, obviously, this is Spandex and wine. And so we kind of covered some wellness things, which we'll be back to that as well. But I just got off another call with an individual around sobriety.
Mm.
And, um, it was such a powerful conversation. And I know that you had said that you don't drink anymore. Tell me about that choice.
Mm. I don't have an addiction, but I grew up
Hmm.
with a recovering alcoholic as a father. So
Hmm.
I knew church basements, smoke-filled church basements really well. I attended lots of AA meetings as a child and then moved into Alateen, and I'm a big fan of the 12-step program because I know how many lives it's saved. And then
Hmm.
I ended up marrying an addict and didn't
Oh,
know
okay.
that he was one. And so
Oh.
I think I've off and on throughout my life, I haven't drank.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it got to the point where I was evolving so much that versions of me that like to, and I used to love wine, by the way, that the versions of me that used to drink and used to eat sugar and all these things, they just naturally started to fall away. Like it was a really organic process. I
Okay.
just didn't desire that anymore. What I wanted more was the clarity that I experienced without it, was the liberation and the joy of being in my body. And that's my honest answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you had mentioned sugar in there too. So tell me
Yeah.
about your diet. Like how has that changed over the years?
It's been like this in full
Okay. Okay.
transparency. I
Sure.
just went through another one of these and now I'm
Uh-huh.
coming back out of it. So, um, when I was young, I love my dad, and he's like, he's probably one of my biggest aspirations because he's changed his life around. But one of the things and the ways he showed love when I was younger was through very strict, I guess, discipline. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know that that was his way of showing love when I was a child. So one of the things that happened is I was never allowed to eat junk food, like at all. Like I would actually get in trouble. And so I was scared, terrified even to ask for a cookie or something like that. So
Yeah.
I used to make a trip every day after school to what was called the Red Rooster, where I grew up. It was a convenience store. And I would buy a bag of chips and Smarties and I would eat it before anybody got home. So I became a closet eater. And that's actually when I entered high
Uh,
school, what ended up me gaining all that weight. And
mm-hmm.
so it wasn't until way later on, I still remember this day. It was after I had graduated high school, and my dad actually sat down and had a conversation with me. He's like, I just want to apologize to you for being so hard on you. I thought you were punishing yourself because of what your granddad did to you when you were little. And I was like, whoa. I was like, well, if that's what internally I was doing, I had no conscious awareness of it, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And so after I met my ex-husband, I always had a love for fitness actually and health. There that was always inside of me. It was so wild. But in
Yeah.
high school, I had a chronic knee issue that happened through playing basketball. And then with all the weight gain, it really limited my mobility. And I started working at a gym, and then I did my first cleanse, and I just got introduced to this whole new paradigm of health and wellness and fitness. And I lost the most weight that I'd ever lost in my entire life. And I felt so vibrant and clean from the inside out. And then I got pregnant and I gained 40 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, it took a little while for me, actually more than a year, for me to release all that weight because I had all those issues going on. And then I was good. Like I felt like all of my eating patterns were gone. Like I had done so much work on myself. I thought they were gone. And then COVID came.
Ah, yes.
And I also had a broken heart. And there was a lot
Uh,
of things in my life that were kind of dying off and falling apart. And
okay.
guess what rose to the surface? All of those emotional eating patterns. And I think that even hurt me more because I had grown, I guess, a spiritual ego that thought I was good, that thought I was out of it, right? That would never come back. And they
Right.
did. And so I was really hard on myself. And I actually went back into those cycles of shame. And I was shaming myself for those patterns coming up. But it was all for a purpose. Like I'm coming out of that now in this last year. And I realize that for me, in that sort of spectrum of things, I do believe that anything that we go through, it's because we need to let go of another of identity, like a false identity of us. And it had to be from a choice of love. So I've made lifestyle changes and dieted from a place of shame, and that never works. But when you
Right.
truly do it from a place of love and acceptance, and you're choosing it because you love yourself so much, that's
Mm-hmm.
entirely different. And yeah, so I'm just being honest. And I know there's a lot of people out there who, for whatever reason, it's part of our journey where we do this, right?
Yeah,
With our emotional eating patterns and putting on weight and losing weight. It's an interesting and wild ride, and it's fascinating also for me.
it
That was a
is. It is.
long-winded answer.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I love that, the spiritual ego. That is, I haven't heard that before. And so that makes sense. In all different areas of your life, you can be like, oh no, I'm above that, or that's not going to happen to
Exactly.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness. So you have courses and workshops and some fun things coming up. What's up next?
What's up next is the Red Carpet Express, which I'm so excited about because through the COVID thing, I went through a transition in every area of my life, including my business, and I'm just emerging so much more authentic and so much more me, and like not holding back and allowing myself to shine and do what I love. And that's the Red Carpet Express. And it is a 7-week transformational journey where I take women through this incredible process, which I believe I was gifted through one of the lowest points of my life, an incredible mystical experience that led me on this journey similar to the alchemist, where
Mm,
I discovered all these profound tools. And this one mystical, profound journey gave me, and I've been applying it to my life, like the master key to unlocking our potential and future self. And part of that is, again, connected to that divine love, is that we don't even know. Like, you don't even know, Robin. Like, I'm saying this on behalf of me, even though I've reached levels of this knowing of love, I still, like Amy, still doesn't know how much we are loved and adored, and how we are truly being guided down this path to the best, most fulfilling life. If we can trust and surrender that we don't have to know the how, we just have to listen to that intuitive nudge within our heart. We just have to trust that those desires that are in our heart are actually meant for us, no matter how
mhm,
big it is. So I always say this: if your dream is to have a beach house mansion, or your dream is to have a little cabin in the woods, if there's something like that that just excites you, it's because there is a possibility of an experience for that you in this lifetime that you're meant to like come into this universal meet cute with and
mhm,
have that experience for yourself. I truly believe that we're royalty in our heart, that we are truly divine, and that as we get older, in my experience, self ownership, and I'm talking about sovereignty here, like really owning who we are as self, not as the small self, not as the ego, but our most authentic, our higher self, is
mhm,
really stepping into this sovereignty where we just move differently. We make decisions from like, this is a 10 out of a 10. This is an F yes. I'm doing this unapologetically. It doesn't make any logical sense, but I'm
mhm,
going for it because I understand that when I do this and when I say yes to my soul, that it's going to take me down that path to the most delighted and surprised, fulfilling path ever.
mhm.
That's the energy of the Red Carpet Express. You
That's
won't be the
awesome.
same. Yeah.
But how do you keep feeding that? Like, I know you can go through this course,
Yeah.
but then after that, how do you keep that going?
You have to choose you every single day. And I love that you answered that question, because in that question, there was already hesitancy. Not that you
Right.
were
Yeah.
being
No, no, no.
hesitant, but we do. We think, oh my God, I'm going to go through this transformation. And then what? What's next? What's next? What's
Right.
next? And it
Yeah.
takes us out of the present moment. And everything happens in the present moment, even when we're thinking about our future, right? And we're thinking
Hmm.
about doing something. When we experience it for ourselves now, it's happening now. It's not happening 10 years away. The feeling and the imagination of it, we are actually creating that now. So we trick ourselves, I think, all the time out of possibility and transformation because we already go into lack and limiting mindset because we're so conditioned that way, right? That we think,
Yep.
but how do I stay in it? Well, you stay in it by being in it. You stay in it by being fully present. You stay in it by choosing you over and over and over again every single time and reframing and coming back to yourself and coming back to the truth. But you have to know what that is. You have
Right.
to know what the truth of you is.
hmm And I'm sure that you have days. I mean, you have to have bad days just like everyone else.
All the time. All the
Okay.
time. Queen of bad
Okay.
days.
So how do you bring yourself back into that present moment, and or do you just let yourself have that day and then you're on to the next? How do you bring
Yeah.
yourself back?
That's an awesome question, and it looks different depending on what it is. Sometimes it can be
I
as
mean, like
simple.
you particularly.
Yeah, I'm speaking about me though, because
Oh, okay.
sometimes
Okay,
it
sorry.
depends on the level of intensity. To me, it's if your nervous system is dysregulated, sometimes one tool will work to bring you back down, but sometimes it won't work. And so when I need to reframe and in a really bad place, the best thing for me to do is allow myself to feel because I have a natural tendency to want to suppress. Like that pattern is still inside of me. I'm just aware of it and I acknowledge it. So, one of the things that
Yeah.
I do to heal is feel. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. We have to feel to heal. We can't run away from our feelings. We have to understand our feelings
hmm
are actually just meant to be felt. And once we give them permission to be there, they lose their power. They don't stick to you anymore because you're not creating an identity out of them, a story out of them. So often if I'm having a really bad day, I have to make myself sit and close my eyes and feel and listen to what's going on inside of me. So that would be like
hmm
a really bad day. If I just have moments where I feel like I slip off of that, it can be as simple as closing my eyes and taking some deep breaths or walking
hmm
to a mirror and reminding myself, hey, Amy, this isn't the truth. This isn't what you really are. Like, this is happening, yes, and you're experiencing this, but this is not the truth of you. The truth of you
hmm
is love. So I always come back to that. And sometimes I need to sit, I teach this to all my clients, and I love sharing this. And one of my favorite things to do, because I think it helps people actually open up and connect to themselves and the love that's inside of them, is I sit with my eyes closed with a hand on my heart and I just simply ask my heart, what does my heart need right now? Like I ask that and I always get an answer because the heart knows within 3 seconds, like 2 to 3 seconds. And you'll actually hear something and it will be simple. So I'll give you an example. Um, there was one time when I was actually facilitating a true color session. And what happens in the space of true colors is there's so much unconditional love. Like it's incredible. It's hard to put into words, but you can feel it. Everybody can feel it. And this particular man left his session, and I was just overflowing with love. Like I had so much love. And I'm single. I have 2 dogs and a son, but he was at school. And I was like, I have nobody to share this love with. And I started to feel sad from that thought. So
Ah.
instead of looking outside of myself to try and give this love away, I
hmm
sat and I placed a hand on my heart and I asked, what does my heart need right now? And I heard, go celebrate. And I thought that was interesting. And so I needed more clarity. So I actually also asked, well, what would be the highest way for me to celebrate right now? And I heard, go have a shower. I'm going to condense this because this is for a whole other podcast. But anyways, I thought it was interesting because at the end of True Color sessions, they actually shower all the body paint off of them as a kind of a release and rebirth and stepping into the new them. But I, as a facilitator at the end of a True Color session, had never showered. And I thought that was interesting. So I listened and I went to have a shower. I'm going to sound like the craziest person in the world right now, and I don't care because
Okay.
this shower was the best shower I've ever had in my entire life. It was like I had merged with the universe. There was no separation. Random songs started to pop in my head. The water felt like I was in this mystical forest underneath a waterfall. It was crazy. I sat down in the shower and let the water cascade on my body. I even got turned on and thought, no, this isn't spiritual. I can't get turned on by this. And I just let myself experience it. It was the longest, most exciting shower I'd ever had. And I was, talk about being overflowing with love before. After, I was expanded. It was like the universe took all that love that was inside of me and made it, magnify it, and gave it all back to me. So that proved to me in the moment that the sadness that I was experiencing came from the observation that I had no one to share it with. When actually the only person I ever needed to share it with was me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. This has been so very interesting. I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to connect with you in any way that works for them. So what are all the ways that people can reach you?
On Instagram and Facebook, I'm Amy Dawns 1111. That's my number. And my website is amydawns.com. And my podcast, obviously, is Winning the Divine Lottery, available on your favorite listening platform. And I'm just starting to release it on YouTube as well. I'll have to send you that link because I don't know it off heart.
That's okay. Yeah.
And I think that's everything.
Okay. Yes. And I'll include all of that in the show notes. Is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know or to hear? Maybe I should say.
Just, I always come back to love, like just how incredibly loved you are. And if you don't believe it, all I'll ask you is to maybe try it on, like you would try on a new outfit. Try on this idea that you are so profoundly loved.
Great. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you, Amy, for being here. This was wonderful.
Thank you for having me, Robin.
You take care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye. Wow, Amy, that was amazing. So many wonderful nuggets in that conversation. So I'll do my best with the takeaways here. 1, winning the divine lottery is a perception. Life and love are the lottery. How we create our lives from that standpoint can change the trajectory of our lives. 2, find an outlet that allows you to step into your own and become your authentic self. 3, truly listening is a skill that allows the other person to fully express themselves and be seen in their fullness. 4, energy medicine can find the root cause of many issues in our bodies. It can find deeply buried subconscious stories. 5, every woman needs another woman in her corner. The support, empowerment, and love from that relationship is amazing. 6, breaking out of patterns is possible. Try letting go from a place of love and choosing love. 7, trust that inner voice and tug. It might just lead you to your own divine lottery. Thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, if you wouldn't mind just sharing it with a friend, that would be wonderful. And please hop on over to Facebook and join our private Facebook group at Spandex and Wine. Hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you take a few seconds to do each or all of the following. First, follow or subscribe to Spandex and Wine. It'll help you so you don't miss an episode, and it'll help me because you won't miss any episodes. To do this, you'll just go to the podcast, click subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. Look for the plus sign or follow button, and this is one of the best things that you can do for the podcast, so thank you. If you'd also be willing to give a 5-star review, that would be amazing. And lastly, please share an episode with a friend or 5 to keep the love going. I appreciate you. Thanks.